All right, let me say this before I start this video. This is about the Bucks and their playoff run, and let me say this: the Bucks have been massively disappointing for over the past 2 or 3 years. I would say four, but there was really no expectation of them 4 years ago. And the year that I'm talking about in particular is the year that they lost in 7 games in the first round to the Boston Celtics. But you know what? Let me just use that year for a second to describe the frustration that I'm pretty sure a lot of fans of the Milwaukee Bucks have. You have Giannis Antetokounmpo, who is most likely every night that he plays, unless he goes up against a LeBron or a Kawhi or a Kevin Durant, he will be the best player on the floor. And impactful in his ability. But time and time again, we see Giannis or Giannis's teammates come up short, which results in the Milwaukee Bucks losing. Right? So when they played the Boston Celtics without a Kyrie Irving, who got hurt right before the playoffs started, they had a rookie Jason Tatum. They had a second-year player. They had second-year players in Terry Rozier and Jaylen Brown. They had an old guy, Al Horford. Right? You have these guys out there. Okay? Giannis is supposed to beat that team. You know, that's the thing about basketball. Basketball is you can have one player severely impact how a series goes. It's not like football where you need a majority of your teammates to play well to win games or to win a championship. In basketball, all it takes is one or two people to seriously impact a series. And Giannis, being the best player on the floor most of the time, is supposed to be that impact. But he comes up short. Now, Giannis is going to average his 25 or 30 points a game, grabbing about 10 to 15 rebounds. He's going to do that every single night. So the best way to beat Giannis is by letting Giannis do whatever he wants to do and going after his teammates. Because if his teammates don't play well, Giannis will lose. When Giannis loses, I'm always surprised by his stat line because it's like, damn, you had 35 points and 17 rebounds. Like, why did y'all lose so bad? And it's usually because Chris Middleton is having an off night. Or whether it's Bledsoe or Drew Holiday, they're having an off night. Or Brook Lopez isn't hitting the three-pointers like he sometimes does. So, Giannis being the best player on the floor, a lot of times really great players where they fall short is they don't have the ability, they don't have the insight to get their teammates going. They don't know how to get their teammates set up. They don't know how to, get the offense going. Usually the offense is being run with them off ball. And sometimes you need a guy like Giannis who is as impactful on the boards and low post to be able to take the ball and run the offense. Try to force some double teams. Set some screens or something. Try to get your teammates open. Try to get them easy shots. Okay, but for some reason, Giannis, that's not really his game, but let's get to it.
First things first, on a Thursday morning, we welcome in Chris Broussard to the conversation. Morning, Broussard.
Let me say this. If the Milwaukee Bucks fall 0-2, I don't think they're out of this series. But you never want to be in it. Like, it is not preferable to be down 2-0 in a series, especially the NBA Finals. Because one game, either games 3 or 4, all it takes is one game for it to be a one-possession game at the end and for something to happen, and then you could lose that game, and now you're either down 0-3 or 1-3. You never want to be down 0-2 because one bad game here and there after that, and you could be on the verge of getting eliminated. So you never want to be down that much.
Stage for tonight, Suns had their way in game 1 with the point guard Chris Paul and Devin Booker leading the way outside, and then you got DeAndre Ayton getting it done down low. Bucks have lost game 1 now in each of their last 3 series.
And this is what I hate about NBA defense now. Let's take a look at this. You got Chris Paul, who's about 6', 6'1". I'm not sure. I think he's 6 foot. And you got Brook Lopez, who's 7 foot, 7'1", something like that. You mean to tell me Brook Lopez and the other guy that was defending him, I think that was Bobby Portis. You mean to tell me that y'all can't with y'all wingspan get in front of this guy and jump and block his shot? Like, you're close enough to do it. It's not like he had to run. And even though he's, running to the ball, he's just not close enough. They're like almost in his face when he goes up for the shot, but he's drilling them. Just get your hand, deflect the ball, something. Like,
Chris Paul and Devin Booker leading the way outside. And then you got DeAndre Ayton getting it.
It's like they're not jumping because they don't want to foul. When all you got to do is jump and block the shot. That's it. That's all you got to do is jump and block the shot. Like, all they're doing, they're running. They're putting their hand up to defend or to make it look like they're defending. But they're not really trying to contest the shot. They're just putting their hand up, hoping that it kind of throws them off.
DeAndre Ayton getting it done down low. Bucks have lost game one now in each of their last 3 series. Not great. So Broussard can move like Milwaukee.
Right there. And this is what I hate about basketball now. Like, players are trying so hard not to initiate contact because they don't want to get fouled. They don't want to foul the other guy. Because you could get a foul called on you for really nothing. And it's like it seriously impacts the defense. So it's like a team that doesn't play defense, you're at more of an advantage if you're more offensively focused than defensively focused. Like, other than keeping them out the paint, I would just let them shoot threes all day. Just let them shoot, because that's pretty much what you're doing. I mean, feigning defense, this is all-star game caliber defense. Giannis, when all he had to do was stay in a play, you didn't even have to touch him. Just wait for him to go up for the shot and block it from behind. Just put your hand up and hit the ball, deflect it. That's it. You don't even have to block it completely. Just deflect it. Like, and they're doing nothing.
Forward to lose game 2 tonight in Phoenix.
Sure. Look, I've picked the Suns to win this.
You got Bobby Portis out at the perimeter trying to get a steal on Chris Paul, when all he has to do is keep his feet set, keep his hand up, and if Chris drives, you just stay with him until he puts the ball in the air and then block it. I don't understand. Like defense is ridiculous now. They're better off just not playing defense at all. Just standing in one spot like LeBron does. Now, I kind of don't blame LeBron, because it's like, it's no point. They're going to get what they want anyway, and I don't want to foul. Like, so what's the point of playing defense?
Because I think they're the better team and they present some matchup problems for Milwaukee. But to write the Bucks off if they're down 0-2, that would just be wrong. We in the media and a lot of times fans, we do write teams off early in the series, and usually it's for these abstract reasons like momentum or, we don't think they can miss.
Momentum is very important. It can change the landscape of a series. It can. Momentum is nothing but confidence. If one team is confident going into a series and they lose 2 games, now the confidence / momentum is on the other side. And it takes a shift in that for the momentum to change places or to be, it's a confidence thing. And you have to win games. You have to make plays. That's why when they say all it took was one score or all it took was one shot, because it's like you got to convince yourself, I can do this. Like, it sounds corny, but that's just the way momentum works. And, this is what makes crowds so important, because home crowds, they boo, which seriously impacts the mindset of the players, or they cheer, which seriously impacts the mindset of the players. Like, it just, that's the way it works. It's not an abstract thing. Like for some reason, people think that this is a thing, but it seriously has no impact on the game itself, which it does, because it's confidence, which is a mental thing, and sports is mostly mental. So it does. It's not an abstract idea that somebody came up with to kind of, feed whatever argument they're trying to make. Momentum is a real thing.
Bounce back from a bad loss, But to the players, it's different. Each game is an individual game. And obviously, they step out there thinking they're not worried about they lost the last game. They believe they can win this one. And Milwaukee has proven that they are a resilient, mentally tough team. They wanted Miami in the first round. They wanted
because Miami wasn't as good as people thought they were. See, last year in the bubble, it was just a different situation. You're talking about a 5-month layoff where teams couldn't practice, teams couldn't play, teams had to stay home because of the restrictions or whatever. And then when they finally got the season to go, I don't even know if they notified the players of what was going to happen, because most of the players started having mental breakdowns. Some of them tried to leave the premises just so they can go and try to, I guess relieve some stress. Like, I don't think that they informed anybody that that was going to happen. They just put the plan together. They announced it. And then I don't think they told them to, mentally prepare themselves for what they were going to get themselves into, which opened the door for teams like the Lakers and the Miami Heat to take advantage of it. I mean, because that's what happened. Like, Miami is usually a first round, second round exit every single year, and that's if they make the playoffs. And people thought that team was going to be a force for years. Tyler Hero was going to be this sniper, sharpshooting superstar or something like that. No. It was the circumstances. It's like when teams win championships during a lockout-ridden season. Like, that's what happens.
Team that everybody said gave them matchup problems, and that last year in the bubble beat them in 5, embarrassed them. They wanted them to get over that mental.
The Milwaukee Bucks had a rough time in the bubble. I think some of their players opted out. I don't know how many. If I had to put a number on it, I would say like three players or so opted out. They didn't want to play, and I think it was essentially just Giannis out there trying his best. But
hurdle. Then they go to Brooklyn, which was laden with stars. They lose
Brooklyn. You're talking about Kyrie Irving, who was injured from the start of the series, and you talk about James Harden, for some reason, was out there on one foot trying to shoot 3-pointers. Sure, you got it.
First 2 games, they're down 49 in game 2. And they come back and win 4 of the next 5 games. I understand the injury to Kyrie, but still, they won 4 of the next 5 games, including a tough game 7.
See, he's saying, I know Kyrie was injured, but still, like, that didn't matter. You're talking about you're talking about an all-star type lineup, but one of the stars was hurt for most of the season, and another star was hurt for like half the series. And you get what I'm saying. But they had the injuries. The injuries were a real thing. It was essentially KD out there trying his best, trying to win the series for his team, and he just couldn't get it done. I mean, I don't know, man. It just feels like a lot of narrative with no context whatsoever, and that's usually when you start delving into the make-believe. But
in Brooklyn. So the Bucks can bounce back. There's no doubt about it. To beat them,
I would say a more legitimate win for the Bucks was beating the Hawks, because when Trae Young got hurt, when Giannis got hurt, there was no significant advantage. Without Trae Young, that Hawks team isn't as good. We've seen that. Without Trae Young, that Hawks team isn't that good. They need Trae Young. They need a healthy Trae Young. Milwaukee was a better team without Giannis. Well, I'm not going to say without Giannis, but they were a better team than the Hawks without Giannis. That was still a really good team. So, I don't know. Context matters, man.
He's going to have to beat them physically. They're not going to be shook. They're not going to lose heart. They're not going to give up. So, yes, they can come back from an 0-2 deficit.
I totally agree with you, Broussard. And Brandon's been hammering a good point when it comes to the Clippers, actually, which was how rare the 0-2 deficits have been to come back from. The stat Brandon's had, I think, it's less than 7% chance to come back from 0-2 down. And that is true over the course of NBA history.
You know what I find? that makes winning these series when you're down 0-2, 1-3, 0-3, what makes these series so tough to come back, because you can actually play defense. Like, I'm not talking like overly physical, but you can be physical. You can actually get up on the guy. You don't have to worry about getting a bunch of blocking fouls and technical fouls and personal fouls and all this other stuff that they call it now. Like, you don't have to worry about that. You can actually get in front of the guy, put your hand on him, and just, pretty much control the ball handler, which limited the offense. I mean, now teams are averaging like 120 now. They're averaging about 120 now, which is a lot more than what they used to average per game. So it's like there's more scoring. It's more three-pointers going up. This is why teams are never out of a series. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point in the near future we see a team down 0-3 and come back to win the series, because it can change in a minute. It can change. You could be down 0-3 and all of a sudden you win one game, by a significant margin. Now your team is confident. Now it's like you get on this hot streak. And that's how it works. I mean, this is why it's not hard anymore to be down 0-2, be down 1-3. Because it's like all it takes is a series of unfortunate events for the other team. That's it. And momentum is usually a huge part of that. But let's get to it, man.
Also true in this postseason, teams down 0-2 in a series are 3-5. That's like 38%. The Clippers did it twice, and the Bucks did it once. And the fact that the Bucks have already done this and done it in a series they didn't have home court, because the other thing about falling down 0-2, it almost assuredly means if you're going to win the series, you're going to have to win it in 7, and in this case it would be a game 7 on the road. The fact that they've already done that, to me, speaks very well to their chances of doing it again. Brandon, I know you picked the Suns in 5. When I picked the Bucks in 7, I said I thought they'd lose the first 2. Now, I thought Giannis might not play the first 2.
Right.
So that obviously changes the math a little bit. But I don't think this is a Milwaukee team that will despair. I think Broussard's point about their mentality, we've talked a lot about Giannis saying not get too high, not get too low. I think if they fall down 0-2, they'll say, okay, this is not where we wanted to be, but we have been here before.
Maybe if Giannis was fully healthy, but he's not. That knee is a big deal. That hyperextended knee is a big deal.
Then he would have been better off not playing until he was fully healthy. I hate when they do that. Players come back. Like, this is what I say. I don't understand why James Harden was out there. You're not helping anybody. You're not helping anyone do anything when you're out there at like 25% or 50% and you're hobbling and you can't even shoot the same way anymore, which is pretty much what you're there for. I mean, sure, James Harden is a phenomenal passer. He's able to get teammates in good spots, but primarily what you got him out there for is his effective three-point shooting and his ability to force fouls. That's what you got him out there for. And if you can't do that at a high level, then just sit down. Let another player that's fully healthy get in the game and pick up the slack. Like, if you're not healthy, don't use that as an excuse when you lose. Okay? Don't use that as an excuse when you lose. Oh, I wasn't 100% or he wasn't 100%, because it makes no sense. Then it's like you're being selfish. You're more worried about your numbers than actually getting a win, because essentially you're taking minutes away from a player that is fully capable of filling in and maybe not producing at your level, but at least playing at a higher level than you are. I mean, that argument can be made, man. Like, is Giannis being selfish? If he's more worried about what people are going to say about him not playing than he is making sure that he recuperates at 100% to 100%. Like, man.
He impacted the game on the boards, but for them to win and to win this series, he needs to drop 35 points consistently, which is easy for him when he's healthy.
No, in order for them to win this series, because I don't believe it's going to happen unless Giannis can find a way to get his teammates going. Whether it's setting a series of screens, trying to get them open, or learning how to facilitate better, Giannis needs, or he would have to average about 40 to 50 points a game. Like, seriously, either he would have to average 40 to 50 points per game from now on, or he would have to learn how to get his teammates going. One or the other.
But he's not. Here's the deal. 35 times a team took a 2-0 lead in the NBA Finals in finals history. 31 of those 35 teams went on to win the title. That's almost 90%. So it's an absolute, it's a must-win tonight. If they fall back, they have no chance, Wilds. You got CP3 on the other side who's in a moment, and he's not going to let up. He's not going to let those boys not be prepared. He actually talked about...
You heard what Brendan Marshall just said? He said CP3 is in the moment. You know what that sounds like to me? That's that momentum. That's the confidence. When you're in the moment, when you're feeling it, that's the confidence. That's that momentum. That is not an abstract thing. Especially when you have an outstanding ability to play the game. You know, that is a serious advantage. It's the confidence. This is why they say teams can beat one player. One player cannot beat a great team. It just can't happen. A great player cannot beat a great team. Confidence is very important.
After game one, he said, one thing about this team, we will be prepared. So now you got a team who's super smart, they're well coached, and they can play ball. Please, they have no chance if they fall 0-2.
Okay, but I think the Bucks are going to come in with a little bit of a different strategy. And not saying that game one was a feel-out game necessarily, Broussard, but we know that Giannis is on like a low-key minutes restriction. They saw what the Bucks were doing on offense, or to attack their sort of like pick and roll, so they had to switch that up. I think they're going to come out and look very differently. I want to show you a graphic about how good the Suns are early. I think this game, the Coach Bud should put extra emphasis on winning this first quarter. The game one, I think the Suns got the lead at like 3.5 minutes, and they never looked back. And I don't think anyone watching that game felt like, you know what? I think the Bucks are going to win. It felt like Tom Hanks and Wilson the volleyball as it just slowly drifted further and further away. It gets up to 17. Oh, Campaign hits something. Oh, you're up to 20. It comes down to 10. It never felt like they were really going to win the game. But I think this game...
All right, so you just saw a graphic of first quarter leads, or, you know, the end of the first quarter, you know, the amount of points that they led by, and how many times it resulted in a win or a loss. Now, the Phoenix Suns had an 11-point lead at the end of the first quarter, and they won 10 out of 11 games. Same thing for the Bucks. They had an 11-point lead at the end of the first quarter, and they're 7-3 in those games, which is a huge win percentage drop off. All right. I'm not saying they got to win the first quarter. What I'm saying is you have to find a way to get it going. You have to find a way to get it going. Right? Like if the Phoenix Suns win tonight, going into game 3, they're going to have all of the momentum. They're going to have all the confidence. They're going to feel like they're unbeatable. And at this point in the playoffs, I don't really see the Bucks winning this series, man. Even with the healthy Giannis, I've seen Giannis flame out in the playoffs. I don't know if he has enough, so he has to add a wrinkle. You know, like the NBA Finals is where legends are born. Like, This is where champions are made. This is where you solidify your legacy. Like, seriously. I mean, and Giannis had ample opportunities over the past 4 years to get to this point. But for some reason, he can't seem to get the job done. It can't be because of injury. He has to win this game because he has to put a stop to the momentum. He has to put a stop to it. It's up to him to do that. That's the burden of being the best player on the floor, is that the burden lies on you. Like when your team loses, they're not going to look at anybody else. They're going to look at you. And I think that's why he played, is because he knew that that's what they were going to do. They were going to judge him for the team's loss. So he feels like he has to play. And he has to try to give them that edge. And it's not, because you're going up against a great team. Let me predict how it's going to go tonight. All right, so the only way that the Milwaukee Bucks is going to win this game is if the Phoenix Suns are off. And it's happened. It's happened in previous series where, Devin Booker doesn't shoot as well. Chris Paul may not shoot as well. And then if they can't get anybody off the bench, or if they can't get their supplementary guys or tertiary guys like Mikal Bridges, if they can't get those guys going, Cameron Johnson, then they're going to struggle. And this is where the Bucks need to come in, and they need to shoot well. Chris Middleton has to have a 25-point game. Jrue Holiday has to have a 20-point game. And so that way, if Giannis can't reach 30, you still have a good chance to win, because you have two other guys with 20 points. And it gives your team the best chance at the end, if you don't have the lead already, to be in the game so you can win it at the end. Chris Middleton has to step up. I'm tired of hearing about Chris Middleton being an all-star, but this dude seems to flame out just as much as Giannis does. So there are times where Chris Middleton actually takes over games in the playoffs, where he shoots the lights out, and it's like, where's this guy every night? Where he has the ability to do this, but he doesn't. So, all right. So that's it, man. That's the only way. If that doesn't happen, if the Phoenix Suns shot is falling, I don't think Milwaukee has the firepower to keep up with them. That's the only way that they're going to beat the Suns in this game, is if they can get them off of their game. But with the game being as non-touchy as it is, I don't think that you could physically impose your will on them. You have to find a way to get them off their game, which probably means just tight defense and I don't know, some kind of exotic defense that kind of confuses them or something. But this isn't really football, so I don't really think that kind of stuff works as much. But you gotta find a wrinkle somewhere. It has to happen. But we'll see, man. I'm done.